Good evening, everybody. It's January 19th, 2024, just a little after midnight. And I'm going to read something to you. It was sent to me by a subscriber, and it was presented at the Consciousness Technologies Conference July 19th to 21 on 2001 in Sisters, Oregon. It's called And the Early Mind Wars. Let's see, am I missing something? Synthetic Telepathy and the Early Mind Wars by Richard Allen Miller. And please excuse my voice. I have been sneezing. These criminals have been forcing me to sneeze literally for hours, which is why I haven't recorded anything for hours. So, and yes, there is the technology to cause somebody to sneeze when you don't have a cold. Unless, of course, they've infected my environment or the property, which is quite a possibility. But this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Please hit the thumbs up. I'm going to read something about synthetic telepathy in the early mind wars by Richard Allen Miller. And thank you, subscriber, for sending me the link. So the introduction is, and before I get in with that, this is entitled Guiding Light by Linda Russell, Linda's Art Angels. It is a mini painting. Introduction. I first became aware of Alan H. Frey's work at Willow Grove in 1972, just after completing the holographic concept of reality. I was working with Dr. Carl Schneider, MRU at the time, and was asked about the significance of his work. Realizing its possible use in mind control, my first reaction was to go on, quote unquote, red alert. Full significance was not yet understood at this time. Basically, Frey had discovered another sensory motor input in the higher blue band frequencies, which is 0.3 to 3.0 gigahertz. At very low amplitudes of power, it was as if we had another type of vision, quote unquote, but did not know how to see what was being received. It constituted the next generation of subliminal communications. My work at the time was involved with an AI database for paranormal references, which was Project Paraphile. A second paper was also presented at the Omniversal Symposium, California State College at Sonoma. That was September 29, 1973. This was entitled Embryonic Holography and was an application of holographic concept of reality model. It dealt with biogenesis, neurological regeneration, and included speculation on the origins of the C word, the CANCR, faith healing, psychic surgery, and more technical aspects of the mind-body energetics. 1 week after the delivery of that paper, 4 men came to my place of business, 2 in suits and 2 in full army dress. The 2 suits held me under close arrest, while the 2 army personnel went through my files, pulling anything related to embryonic holography. The paper was rewritten from old notes and memory, but it was not the same. Oh my goodness, this sounding vaguely familiar about other people you've heard about in the news and stuff? How about even Amos Miller, that Amish farmer? They go into his facility and steal his milk products. Just bizarre. We're living in bizarre, psychotic times, guys. We're being ruled by psychopaths. We'll discuss that another time too. So what got this paper classified as top secret for almost 20 years was that it was critical for the use of Alan Frey's study and its possible application to mind control. I never was able to draw what was so important in that initial paper until I began researching this paper more than 24 years later, and I will discuss those aspects further into this document. In 1961, Alan Frey, a freelance biophysicist and engineering psychologist, reported that humans could hear microwaves Oh, yes, that's interesting. Humans could hear microwaves. Most United States scientists dismiss the discovery as the result of outside noise. James C. Lynn offered a more technical description of the experiment. Frey found that human subjects exposed to 1310 megahertz and 2982 megahertz microwaves at an average power densities of 0.4 to 0.2 milli, I don't know what this is, MWCM2. I'm not sure what that is. Perceived auditory sensations described as buzzing or knocking sounds. Isn't that interesting? Buzzing or knocking sounds. The sensation occurred instantaneously at average incident power densities well below that necessary for known biological damage, and appeared to originate from within or near the back of the head. Pulsed microwave technology. Pulsed microwave voice-to-skull or other sound-to-skull transmission was discovered during World War II by radar technicians who found they could hear a buzz of the train of pulses being transmitted by radar equipment that they were working on. Isn't that interesting? Excuse me, folks, I have to blow my nose here. The phenomenon has been studied extensively by Dr. Alan Frey, Willow Grove, 1965, whose work had been published in a number of reference books. What Dr. Frey found was that single pulses of microwave could be heard by some people as pops or clicks, while a train of uniform pulses could be heard as a buzz without benefit of any type of receiver. Dr. Frey also found that a wide range of frequencies as low as 125 megahertz, which is well below microwave, worked for some combination of pulse power with pulse width. Detailed unclassified studies mapped out those frequencies and pulse characteristics, which are optimum for generation of microwave hearing. Very significantly, when discussing electronic mind control, is the fact that the peak pulse power required is modest, something like 0.3 watts per square centimeter of skull surface, and that this power level is only applied or needed for a very small percentage of each pulse's cycle time. 0.3 watts over centimeter is about what you get under a 250 watt heat lamp at a distance of 1 meter. It's not a lot of power. When you take into account that the pulse train is off, no signal, for most of each cycle, the average power is so low as to be nearly undetectable. This is the concept of spike waves, S-P-I-K-E, waves, used in radar and other military forms of communication. Frequencies that act as a voice-to-skull carriers are not single frequencies, as, for example, TV or cell phone channels. Each sensitive frequency is actually a range or bands, quote-unquote, of frequencies. A technology used to reduce both interference and detection is called a spread spectrum. Spread spectrum signals usually have the carrier frequency hop around within a specific band. Unless the receiver knows, quote-unquote, this hop schedule in advance, like other forms of encryption, there is virtually no chance of receiving or detecting a coherent, reliable signal. Spectrum analyzers used for detection are receivers with a screen. A spread spectrum signal received on a spectrum analyzer appears as just more static or noise. The actual method of the first successful unclassified voice-to-skull experiment was in 1974 by Dr. Joseph C. Sharp and Mark Grove, then at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. A Frey type audible pulse was transmitted every time the voice waveform passed down through the zero axis. A technique easily duplicated by ham radio operators who built their own equipment. Do you hear that? Ham radio operators who built their own equipment. Now, there are a lot of people in the targeting community that have stated that local ham radio operators have access to us through their equipment. And that's certainly a possibility. They've suggested to find out who has ham radio licenses where you live, and that may lead you to a person who's involved in your targeting. So it goes on to say, where did I leave off here? Okay, the sensation is reported as a buzzing, clicking, or hissing, which seems to originate within or just behind the head. The phenomenon occurs with carrier densities as low as microwatts per square centimeter, with carrier frequencies from 0.3 to 3.0 gigahertz. By proper choice of pulse characteristics, intelligent speech may be created. Do you hear that? Intelligent speech may be created. Dr. James Lynn of Wayne State University has written a book entitled Microwave Auditory Effects and Applications, and it explores the possible mechanisms for the phenomenon and discusses possibilities for the deaf, as persons with certain types of hearing loss can still hear pulsed microwaves as tones or clicks and buzzes if words aren't modulated on. Lynn mentions the Sharp and Grove experiment and comments, quote, "The capability of communicating directly with humans by pulsed microwaves is obviously not limited to the field of therapeutic medicine," unquote. Synthetic telepathy. In 1975, researcher A.W. Guy stated that, quote, "One of the most widely observed and accepted biological effects of low average power electromagnetic energy is the auditory sensation evoked in a man when exposed to pulsed microwaves," unquote. He concluded that at frequencies where the auditory effect can easily be detected, microwaves penetrate deep into the tissues of the head, causing rapid thermal expansion at the microscopic level only that produces strains in the brain tissue, and an acoustic stress wave is then conducted through the skull to the cochlea, and from there it proceeds in the same manner as in conventional hearing. It is obvious that receiverless radio has not been adequately publicized to explain because of, get this guys, national security concerns. Today, the ability to remotely transmit microwave voices inside a target's head is known inside the Pentagon as synthetic telepathy. So, according to Dr. Robert Becker, synthetic telepathy has applications in covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with voices or deliver undetected instructions to a programmed assassin. Do you hear that? I'm going to read that sentence again. According to Dr. Robert Becker, synthetic telepathy has applications in covert operations designed to drive a target crazy with voices or deliver undetected instructions to a programmed assassin. The technology may have contributed to the deaths of 25 defense scientists variously employed by Marconi Underwater and Defense Systems, ESMS, and GEC. Most of the scientists worked on highly sensitive, electronic warfare programs for NATO, which included the Strategic Defense Initiative. It is claimed that directed energy weapons might have been used to literally drive these men to suicide, and 291 accidents. So I'm going to end here on that note, guys. There's more to this document. But this is a very interesting topic. Now, under synthetic telepathy, where it says, according to Dr. Robert Becker, this is a clickable link. I'm going to go there and see what I find and see if there's anything that should be, let's see, that we can discuss here. Let's see. Well, under synthetic telepathy, the ESP of espionage. Okay, that's what it is. Synthetic telepathy, the ESP of espionage by Tim Rifat, or Rifat, R-A-F-A-T, March 1997. It is suspected that sections of the U.S. military and security agencies have been using synthetic telepathy against, quote unquote, internal subversives for at least a decade. If these networks continue to operate unchecked, soon our thoughts may no longer be our own. So I'll read this paragraph. It's demons at dimensional doorways. We are surrounded by a sea of biophysical fields, and the so-called collective unconscious is merely a merging of the biophysical fields of human and other life forms. But within this biophysical biosphere may exist remnants of deceased individual biofields, which channelers are able to access in contacting the departed or spirit guides. It may also be that within this biosphere, the biophysical fields of different species merge to form group minds, for example, the tiger or the wolf. Shamans and witch doctors throughout history have reported these phenomena, but the scientific knowledge to comprehend what might be going on has been absent until today. Within this framework, it is possible that aliens from other dimensions are able to gain access to our biophysical biosphere by tapping into the energy given off in human sacrifices, black magic rituals, and the like, thus allowing malevolent aliens, the so-called demonic entities, into our realm. A study of this phenomenon indicates it could be one of the principal paranormal causes of world wars. It may also be no coincidence that, in their synthetic states of paranormal phenomenon, some theosophists and initiates of the Order of the Golden Dawn could have tampered unknowingly with forces that opened gateways to other dimensions. Yep. Thus enabling the malevolent biophysical fields to enter our milieu. Once here, these malevolent demonic entities could easily have entered the minds of the European leaders, provoking them into starting the First World War that would slay so many young men, and releasing so much life force and negative emotion upon which they could feed. The secret U.S. research into electronic gateways to other dimensions may also be enabling entities to enter our continuum with a view to poisoning the consciousness of humanity in preparation for war. Well, that is really interesting because this is dated, let's see, this one is dated 1997, February and March of 1997. Here we are in 2024. And the criminals out there, nobody will believe us what's happening. Nobody will believe targeted people. This technology has been around since at least 1997. It's a long time, folks. So anyway, I look forward to your questions and comments on this. Please hit the thumbs up on about synthetic telepathy, the ESP of espionage. And thank you again for listening in, and welcome newcomers. And thank you for everybody who's returned to the channel. My nose is very stuffy here. I cannot believe how many times I sneezed. It was like countless numbers of sneeze out of nowhere. It's like, I don't know. It wasn't even like a tickle in my nose or whatever, but it's been nonstop. It's been going on for hours now. But it is actually snowing again in rural Kentucky. We had approximately 9 inches of snow, and now I went back out and I did a little bit more shoveling, and it looks like we have like another inch on top of what we had, and it's still coming down. But it's definitely not as cold as it was. You know, we had 1 degree, but now I think it's like 31 degrees outside. But I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to sign off for now. Hope everybody sleeps tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. What's that expression? Don't let the perps bite. Don't let the perps get you. Get yourself a sleeping bag and zip yourself up. I'm going to sign off for now.